All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticism, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to tell all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passion with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. We are coming out of the home stretch of the Chin Check Sports Radio top 10 controversial boxing decisions of all time based on the fights that we grew up watching. And this particular fight definitely was one of the first fights that we thought of when we were asked to put this list together. This was the first fight that we can remember growing up. We sat and watched it with just like a guy clearly was robbed in this particular fight. And we're going to go back to September 10th, 1993. The late Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker defending his WBC welterweight championship against Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. And at that time, going into that fight, Chavez was the number 1 ranked pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Sweet Pea was the number 2 ranked pound-for-pound fighter in the world. So going into the career of Chavez, in July of 1985, a TKO in the second round against the late Roger Mayweather. Yes, that Roger Mayweather who trained his nephew Floyd Mayweather to boxing stardom. In August of 1986, a majority decision in the 12th round against the late Rocky Lockridge. And Rocky Lockridge was a damn good fighter in his own right. Handed Roger Mayweather his first professional loss. And Rocky Lockridge, to the majority of you, is best known for his infamous cry on the show Intervention, when he let out a long cry when being confronted by his children about his drug use and his absenteeism. November of 1987, a TKO in the 11th round against the late Edwin Rosario. In October of 1988, a victory in the 11th round, obviously ruled by an accidental clash of heads, but one of the scorecards, against Jose Luis Ramirez. May of 1989, he defeated Roger Mayweather again to retain the WBC light welterweight championship. In March of 1990, a fight to this day that still bothers us, that you would hope every time that we watch the ending, you hope it'll be different. Kind of the equivalent of watching Boys in the Hood when Ricky, or Morris Chestnut's character, who was on his way to play running back at the University of Southern California, all he had to do was score a 700 on his SATs, and he ends up getting killed. So every time you watch Boys in the Hood, you kind of feel that Ricky's the one that should have lived. And I feel this way about this fight against Meldrick Taylor. The famous fight where Taylor was pretty much winning the fight up until the 12th round, at least had a handed lead on the scorecards, a large lead where Chavez needed a knockout to win the fight. And with a few seconds left, the fight was stopped and Meldrick Taylor was KO'd. And definitely a lot of controversy in that fight. And HBO did, again, I always mention this series, the Legendary Nights, or the Legendary Fight series that they did, that we remember from 2003, that this fight was actually discussed, and Taylor was never the same fighter ever again, and how history might have judged him if Taylor was given the victory or was allowed to continue to get his victory, and how would Chavez been looked at differently. But either way, a TKO in the 12th round against Meldrick Taylor. In September of 1992, a unanimous decision victory against slick southpaw, the late Hector Macho Camacho. In February of 1993, a TKO in the 5th round against Greg Haugen, which sets up the fight versus Sweet Pea Whitaker. Now, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, who was a gold medalist on the 1984 the United States Olympic boxing team. And that particular boxing team, if you look at maybe the 76 boxing team, are generally regarded as the 2 best boxing teams that America has ever produced. So March of 1988, a awful, disgusting split decision loss in France, challenging the aforementioned Jose Luis Ramirez for the WBC lightweight championship, Folks, that was another awful, awful decision. But we didn't watch that fight growing up, so that's why that fight was not on our particular list. In February of 1989, a unanimous decision victory over Greg Haugen. In August of 1989, a unanimous decision victory in the rematch against Jose Luis Ramirez. In February of 1990, a unanimous decision victory over Freddie Pendleton. In May of 1990, a unanimous decision victory over Hall of Famer Azuma Nelson. In October of 1991, a unanimous decision victory over Jorge Paez. In July of 1992, a unanimous decision victory over Rafael Pineda. And in March of 1993, a unanimous decision victory over James Buddy McGirt. That same James Buddy McGirt who trained the late, great Arturo Gatti in his wars against Irishman Ward, and who trained Antonio Tarver to his two biggest victories over Roy Jones Jr. So Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, going into this fight, 32-1. Again, we mentioned the one awful decision with only 15 knockouts. 5-time world champion in 3 different divisions versus Chavez, 87-0, 75 KOs, 5-time world champion in 3 weight divisions. In San Antonio, Texas, the Alamo Dome, which is pretty much Chavez and Mexican country. So definitely Sweet Pea fighting basically on the road and fighting in hostile territory. Came out in the first round and we thought landed some beautiful jabs, just moving to his right, just basically utilizing angles and footwork to outbox Chavez. In the second round, we gave Chavez a second round, not because he did anything. Obviously, we gave him a second round. We thought he might have landed some maybe harder punches, and that's the only reason why, because we don't feel that he got off necessarily in the first round, but we felt that's what Sweet Pea did. But in the second round, even though that Sweet Pea was still using the same tactics and the same boxing strategy, but we felt that Chavez landed a few harder punches, so that's why we gave the second round to Chavez. We gave round 3 to Whitaker. Again, same thing. Boxing beautifully, moving. Definitely mixing the jab to the body, landed straight left hand upstairs. Every time they got inside, that you saw him land a quick uppercut and quick body shots on the inside. In round 4, a low blow by Chavez, but it really didn't bother Whitaker, and we felt that Sweet Pea definitely won the 4th round. And we noticed that, and of course we go back and watch a lot of Chavez's fights, he definitely would double up on the left hook to the body. In this particular fight, he wasn't doing that. He was not landing any combinations due to the movement of Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. We gave round 5 to Chavez, again, more landing his straight right lead, which seemed to be the only weapon that was effective against Sweet Pea. And of course, when Sweet Pea, who was a southpaw, the best weapon is a straight right hand, but Chavez's best weapon is his left hooks to the body. So he found that weapon, which is what top flight fighters do, is that they make the adjustments, and he landed his straight right leads, and that's why we gave round 5 to Chavez. Round 6, we gave it to Whitaker. Again, boxing beautifully. Just on his high horse, stayed inside, sat down on his punches when he needed to. Round 7. Now, this is where the fight really turned in Sweet Pea's favor. This fight really was billed as the aggressor, which is Chavez, or the guy that was sticking and moving in Pernell Whitaker, which is what happened that fight. Sweet Pea was boxing and moving. But in the 7th round, where Chavez was supposed to have the advantages, especially fighting on the inside, Sweet Pea tend to have the advantages fighting on the inside. What was Sweet Pea doing? Tying Chavez up on the inside, landing his uppercuts on the inside, landing his left hook to the body on the inside, snapping Chavez's head back on the inside. So a lot of Chavez's strengths were negated by the infighting of Pernell Whitaker that was supposed to be a strength for Chavez. In round 8, again, another clean round for Pernell Whitaker, rocking Chavez's head back with straight left hands. Round 9, round 10, round 11, gave all those rounds, and it wasn't even close to Pernell Whitaker. And folks, as the fight wore on, there were times in that fight where Sweet Pea was physically pushing Chavez back, physically pushing Chavez against the ropes. And of course, when the guy's fighting with his back against the ropes, he is no longer the aggressor. The power is still not the same. And we thought Sweet Pea was winning on the inside. That was supposed to be a strength for Chavez once again. So Sweet Pea was outboxing Chavez on the outside and out fighting him on the inside. Now, round 12. If you want to give round 12 to Chavez, and that's solely because in the last minute of the fight, Pernell pretty much stopped fighting. He figured that he had a fight already won, and we tend to agree with that. So in this fight, we only gave 3 rounds to Julio Cesar Chavez. Both judges, 2 out of the 3 judges scored the fight 115-115. And one judge scored it 115-113 for Whitaker, scoring this fight a draw. And remember watching this saying, how the hell was this fight a draw? It made no sense to us now, and it doesn't make any back then. This fight is special to us for so many reasons. Is number one, we are southpaws, so it definitely made us comfortable in our skin. Learning as a southpaw, boxing as a southpaw, it definitely made us comfortable by saying, wow, look how great a southpaw looks, and if he can do it, we can do it. And again, this was the first fight that we sat and watched where we like, wow, this guy really got robbed. Even with the Meldrick Taylor fight, of course now, we look at it and we can say that Taylor was robbed, but mainly he was knocked out in the fight. So there was always that argument of, well, he didn't answer the referee and stuff like that. So people can kind of poo-poo that away and kind of gloss over it. In this fight, nobody in San Antonio really thought that Chavez won this fight. I ain't talking about even one. A draw. The fight wasn't even a draw. It was a horrible, horrible decision. Again, and we mentioned this before in the Chavez broadcast. We mentioned this before in the Whitaker broadcast. Please go back and check it out again because they are on our Chin Check Sports Radio top 10 greatest fighters of all time based on the fighters that we grew up watching. And we definitely had to go back and watch the fight again. Now, this is something that's interesting. This fight y'all cannot find this fight on YouTube. In our vast boxing collection, to go back and watch the fight again, we dusted off some old VHS videotapes. Yes, we still have VHS old school video cassettes. Yes, we do. We popped the fight in our old school VCR to watch the fight and ate the damn tape. So we were thinking that when we did this broadcast, we only was going to talk about highlights and what we remembered about the fight. But did a Google search, it was on Daily Motion. Thank you, Daily Motion. The entire fight is on Daily Motion, so we advise you all to go check it out. And what we like about Daily Motion, it skips all the corner action. You see the build to the fight, the pre-fight introductions, and straight rounds. So definitely thank you, Daily Motion, for posting up that fight because it is nowhere found on YouTube, and we don't know why. But again, folks, with this list and this fight again was one of the top fights that we thought of when we decided to make this list. This was an awful decision, like truly an awful decision in boxing. And of course, it was questions about the judges and relationship between them and Chavez promoter Don King and president of the WBC, Jose Suleiman. So of course, I believe the Whitaker camp had filed a formal protest. But like in boxing, nothing really happens with formal protest because it kind of sets a bad precedent where a person can overturn a judge's decision, whether you agree with it or not. So we definitely know that it sends a very bad message. Yeah, but this fight was awful. It was no way that Chavez even qualified for a draw. It should have been a clear victory for Whitaker. And I think had he been awarded this decision as the first guy to officially hand Chavez his loss, I think Sweet Pea would be higher up on people's Mount Rushmores of boxing. He's for us, folks. He's one of Floyd Mayweather's favorite fighters. So let that sink in. So the late Pernell Whitaker was robbed of a career-defining victory, even though everybody and their mama watching this fight knows that Sweet Pea won the fight. Even Sports Illustrated, which is what you see on the thumbnail, they even put on the article, robbed. It was that bad of a decision. And again, we're talking about a fight of going on 32 years ago, and we still remember it till this day. Now, what Mexican fans and fight fans will try to rationalize in their mind that Pernell Whitaker ran that fight. No, he did not. He outboxed Chavez, as we mentioned before. He stood there toe-to-toe with him and beat him at his own game on the inside, backed him up against the ropes, beating Chavez on the ropes, beating Chavez in the middle of the ring, took away Chavez's best weapon or neutralized his best weapon, his double left hook to the body. He reduced him to throwing straight right leads, no combination punching, and was clearly frustrating the hell out of Chavez. So that's why this fight is high up on the Chin Check Sports Radio top 10 controversial boxing decisions of all time. And until the next time, it's Chin Check Sports Radio. Signing out.